And many sheikhs say when our children want to marry, we should marry them, or we as parents will be sinful. But should we not object if we know the person they have chosen is not praying, is not practicing, doesn't have a job? Why are parents told to follow Islam when the children are not living by Islam? Sheikh, any of you guys?
I said that statement, so it has to be me. Wonderful.
Okay, Sheikh.
See, Ali, I don't run away from things.
Sheikh, not
I
like
deal
me,
with
and sometimes I have to run away.
Tayyib. Okay. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah.
Like from your documentary.
Okay, now in terms of what was said, no, yeah, it's been misunderstood. Let me clarify and give some more detail. Probably because I didn't have enough time. Umar was looking at me like, get off now, get off. Yeah, so I blame someone else. Right, so when a child is at that age where they want to marry, okay, they have their desires, they need to have an outlet for those desires. It's upon the parent to facilitate that in a good way. Because if we don't facilitate it in a good way, they're going to commit the haram. It's happening. Yeah, it's not confined to the non-Muslim youth. Our youth are up to the same things, unfortunately. Because as a community, as a people, we've made marriage very difficult. And the haram is very easy. So the qaida that we should be following, the principle that we should be following is, if the haram is easy, we should make the halal even easier. But what we're doing is the opposite. We're not saying marry them off to someone who's bad for them. No. That would be failing in your duty as a parent. Okay? Now, the overarching principle here is, you know, if you think about sins, as the Prophet ﷺ said, كَفَى الْمَرْءُ إِثْمًا, it's enough sin, in terms of sin, it's a humongous amount. Like, what do? You neglect the ones you are responsible for. Okay? So part of that responsibility is they need to get married. Help them get married to someone appropriate, someone good, who's going to limit the problems that they have and push them in a better direction. That's what it means. Not, they want to marry this particular person and that's it, they won't let go. That's a context. Okay? Here, in that kind of situation, which does happen and that we deal with, for instance, it could be the girl who comes along and says, no, I have to marry this person. And as a parent, you know this person is bad for them. Person is bad for them. Then you start that discussion knowing that, you know what, they've had a relationship. That's why she has to marry this person. Or he has to marry this girl because they've got a relationship in the background anyway. That's how it always happens. When they say, I have to marry this person, you should automatically know there's a relationship that's been going on for time. So now, that's why they feel like that. Right, then you have to say, you know what? If you start saying, no way, over my dead body, blah, 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 it's not going to help the situation. Okay, then in that situation, you need to manage it. How do you manage it? Right, you know what? I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to think about this. But first and foremost, for us to think about this objectively and properly and decide what's best for your life, not my life, your life, cut off from them for a good month. No communication. And we will talk about it, and I'm open to the idea that possibly you can marry that person. Okay, now you've opened the door. You know what? There's an opportunity here. And you've cut the relationship between them, which means once the relationship is severed for a little while, people can think objectively about, is this actually good for the rest of my life? Young people, if they're in the thick of those emotions, they'll never see the bigger picture. Once you open that door and create a scenario where they can think objectively about it, then you can start talking about, you know what, but marriage is like this. It's not actually this movie picture that you've seen. You be with this person 24/7. It's about children and then bringing up children. How are they going to be in providing for you? How are they going to be, etc. Then you can start that conversation. Being prepared at the same time. You know what? At the end of the day, if I can't get them away from this particular person, even though I believe it's going to be bad for them, it's better than halal than haram. Yeah, so it's now, you are playing a game here of maximize the benefits and minimize the harms. And you're looking, where is the greatest benefit, Islamic benefit? Okay? You can't throw away this child. If you throw them away and push them away, they're going to kufr. They've got plenty of kuffar out there and the system that will help them and push them away from Islam. You need to keep that connection open and help them. So that was the meaning of it, and not just give in straight away. Hope it's clear right now. Omar, give me more time next time. Jazakallah khair.
Anybody want to ask a question out loud?
Yeah, brother kind of half put his hand up.
Which one?
This one here.
It's going to be on
Okay,
behalf
I
of...
saw this is- Okay, we're going to come to you, but I saw this is a can someone give us the over there.
Assalamualaikum. Jazakallah khair for the really nice talks. I just wanted to ask a question in relation to some youth work that I do. So I have run like a youth project which is aimed at talking to Muslim girls, teens, 14 to 19 years old, where we take on difficult issues and sometimes take on questions that other people aren't discussing, maybe issues around gender relations, how Islam views women, the hijab, identity, these kind of topics. And what I've found during the course of the last 2 years when we've run these workshops, and parents often bring their daughters or they sign them up to attend and they come, they drop them off. And then when you talk to these girls, we don't allow parents to stay because the idea is there's a safe space and they get to talk openly. You can really see that there's this massive gap where parents aren't investing time in deconstructing the sort of narrative that our children are growing up around. So for example, you know, the SRE issue with schools. Obviously parents want to protect their children and their innocence, they'll take them out of schools. But what are you doing in place of that? My daughter told me this week she just started sixth form. It's just been 5 days and she goes to a girls' sixth form and she saw 4 supposed transgender people, shall we say, And so these are realities, and there's a massive gap in actually taking apart these discussions. But our generation, my sort of generation, has been very good at teaching Quran and teaching them fiqh and this kind of thing. But the challenges they're facing are not being addressed. So could you please offer some advice in regards to this comment that was made earlier by Ustad Abu Bilal, when he also said there's this subtle sort of ideological attack, he used that term. I just see from the work that I'm doing, there's a massive gap in that, in terms of what parents think. So could you please just offer some advice on how we can do more maybe within the community and as individual parents?
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. No. Assalamu alaikum. Yes. Jazakallah khair for the question. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. I agree there's a massive gap, and that's why I mentioned what I mentioned. And that's a topic in itself. From one side, we should be concerned that parents have this discrepancy and this gap, and they're not deconstructing. On the other side, I will be happy because they're bringing them to you. Because if they wouldn't do that, it would be even bigger gap. So it's a good step in the right direction. You can never outsource tarbiyah, we spoke about that, but it's a good step in the right direction, and it's about finding those role models and those people who can deconstruct. Sometimes parents don't have that ability for various reasons. In terms of how, there's many different ways, but me personally, it also depends on the child. It also depends on the age of the child and the level of the child. But it's a good start to bring them back to the Quran. The Quran has been revealed as a guide, not just something to memorize, but literally something to take on as a guide. And the reason here, or the key word here, is to teach the Quran with meaning, to make it meaningful, to make it relevant, to extract those lessons. And that's where the stories in the Quran have a huge role to play. So once we can deconstruct the surahs, relate the surahs to today's events, and make the Quran relevant. To be honest, I know it's on everyone's minds, and it's what fills Islamic schools as well. People bring them, but we've been teaching this for years. At an Islamic school, we just wait until it's appropriate. Year 6, we segregate the boys and the girls. I take the boys, there's a female teacher, she takes the girls, and we literally open the floodgates at that point. We establish certain adab, and we teach them everything. And we call the parents in before that. We call them in and we say that we will do that. And there will be difficult discussions at home. But we open the floodgates because we say to the parents at that point, if we don't do it, it's your responsibility. Do it. You don't have to send your kids for these lessons. But if you don't do it, and I don't do it, or we as a school have, and they're on social media, they see it. It's about the when and especially the how. Introduce it, be proactive, be a step ahead, do it with adab, do it with stories, bring them back to the Quran, make the Quran relevant.
The door to develop a better relationship with them. Yeah, and he was talking about the love languages there. You know your child. You know what makes them tick. You know what makes them happy and what makes them sad. Use it. Okay, give them things. And remember, teenagers, they have too much free time. If you can channel their energy into work, for instance, yeah, where they get paid, everyone likes to have some money. Yeah, 16-year-old wants some money. Challenge them to work and get paid. Find something for them. At least the company at work is going to be better than the company on the street and just any old friends. So look at things that they will be willing to do because of whatever incentive it is, because that appeals to them, to fill up their time. Okay, that's really key. Fill up their time in something productive and try to channel it to something that is going to bring them long-term benefit. Okay? While at the same time you start to mend the relationship with them. Okay, so it's never too late to do that. I know of families where, for instance, one particular example I know, the brother is like a sheikh, and then his daughter went off the rails completely. Okay, left the house, moved out, she was in a haram relationship, but he had the patience to keep the door open. And regardless of her bad mannerisms and everything else, and how he felt, he kept the door open. And he kept the relationship, and he kept trying to build it. To the point, after probably about 5 or 6 years, she came back. She left all that rubbish and she came back. So sometimes, you know what, when they're in that state, you have to remember, you know what, you want good for them. And you're going to have to put up with the rubbish and the filth. Because at the end of the day, if you just give up and let it go, it's only going to become worse. Keep the connection, do what you can, that's your role. And always leave them a way back. You know, Allah never in the Quran kills your hope. Never. Always tells you, you know what, there's a door. All you have to do is this. Come back. I'm here for you. So take the same approach. This is the Quranic approach. Yeah, so it's never too late.
Another question. Does anybody want to ask that loud one?
Yeah, Sheikh, my hand was half up because it's
I'll do it mine.
class.
Over here.
I wanted some guidance on where a parent more specifically in the case of a toddler, we draw the line with discipline, where, Sheikh Shakur was talking about the different types of attitudes, that women and men, mothers and fathers have. Harshness versus love, and of course, that's the case. Where does that where do you draw the line in terms of disciplining physically, verbally?
22.
There you go then. Qualified. Very qualified.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala rasulillah. Jazakallah khair. It's a very good question.
The Sheikh, tell them how many children you have first.
I don't want to tell them. First, they should say mashallah.
MashaAllah.
Mashallah. I want to hear it.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
Allah bless me with 19 children.
So now you understand why I passed the mic, yeah?
It is very important that we, as parents, as my brother Shakur mentioned, if the direction is not going to the same way between the parents, the father and the mother, that's where the problem comes. And especially what my brother mentioned about the toddler and the children when they are young. And subhanAllah, I remember 2 incidents. I will share it with you. The first one was a family who into music and so on, and I found their 2-year-old child even cannot speak properly, but he sings Justin Bieber's song. And on the other hand, you find another family who always the Quran is running in their home, and the child cannot speak. Even he cannot say proper sentence, but he can read the Quran. That's why there was an Arab poet, he said, إذا كان رب البيت للدف ضاربا فشيمة أهل البيت الرقص. If the father of the family he plays drum, typical Africans, if he plays drum, the rest of the family, what they're gonna do? They are gonna dance. Then it's very important that we all, as parents, father and mother, on the same direction. Second, talking to the children. As my Sheikh mentioned, the father is naturally harsh and the mother is naturally soft. But we need to balance that. And the way you talk to your toddler, the way you talk to your children, it has to be balanced. Not always soft and not always harsh. Because sometimes what happens, the child understands when the father says no. Also the mother, in a maybe different approach, she should say no as well. But imagine the father says no, and the mother gives him from this hand. What happens? The child will say, oh, this old man is a bit harsh, but it's okay to do this or to take this or to eat this or to... And that's the danger when it comes to tarbiyah, when it comes to upbringing the children. We have to have the same direction, we have to have the same goals, and when the father is talking to the child, the mother should not interfere. And when the mother is talking to the child, the father should not interfere. This is what things that which we need to look into all the time. And always try to develop and train and talk to our children and to build a proper loving and caring environment. Imagine, and I'm telling you this, some of the parents, the house is like all shouting and screaming and playing and busy. As soon as the old man comes to the door, everybody's silence and stands in a corner. No. That's not the way your Prophet ﷺ used to be. Alayhi salatu wassalam. That's not the way. Your children, they should, as soon as they hear your voice, they should run to you and hug you and kiss you and then you come down to the house and you make your children feel happy. We need to change a lot of things and to build a strong bond between us and our children. Because as my brothers, they were mentioning, we are in a country, if we did not give our children the right environment, indoors and outdoors, there's another people who are open their doors for them.